Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening to Wake Up, Look Up, a podcast where we connect events happening in real time to the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm Zach Wyrock. In today's episode, we're asking the question, what happens when you childproof the internet? By the way, this episode, I think, is appropriate for older kids, but I'll let you make that choice. The subject matter is going to deal with some mature themes. So you might want to pause and listen to this later. But we're looking at a story that's been in the news all over this past week about Pornhub, the United States' largest adult website, and a law, HB-3, that was passed recently in the state of Florida. Florida has worked really hard as a state to make the internet safer for children. And one of the measures they've taken is to make it so that when you log into an adult website, you have to prove you are an actual adult. Now, that's not that unusual. There are websites dealing with alcohol or tobacco or other things where you simply put in your birth date, the thinking being that a child who's too young wouldn't know how to do the math to say when they were born to be 18 or 21. But Florida felt that was insufficient for accessing an adult website. So what they said is, if you wanted to go to an adult website in the state of Florida, you had to, when you logged in, upload your driver's license, because that was objective proof that you were, in fact, an adult. And the result of that is fascinating. Pornhub, instead of implementing that law, is now making it so that you cannot access their website in the state of Florida. Their response to the idea that you would childproof their website was to say, well, then we're just going to shut down. The reason for that, by the way, is because they did this in the state of Louisiana. The state of Louisiana passed a similar law. Pornhub decided to comply with the law, and as a result, and I want you to hear this, as a result, Pornhub traffic in the state of Louisiana dropped by 80%. In other words, when you had to prove you were an adult, 8 out of 10 people who were accessing Pornhub no longer accessed it. In fact, it was so devastating for Pornhub as a company that in similar states like Texas, Idaho, Kansas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Nebraska that passed similar laws, Pornhub just left those states altogether. Now, that's for two reasons. One is because Pornhub knows children are one of their major customer bases. And if you restrict the ability of children to access their website, it doesn't make sense for them to do business anymore. The second is that we know we shouldn't be on Pornhub in the first place, and we're worried if we have to upload our driver's license, someone might find out. In other words, we lose the anonymity of accessing adult content. It's their greed and corruption and our guilt and shame. By the way, Pornhub is a terrible company. In 2020, the New York Times did a study of Pornhub and the videos that were uploaded to the site and found that they were rampant with child pornography, with violent videos, even including sexual assault. It was so devastating that Pornhub, in response to the New York Times study, deleted 6 million videos. Let that roll over you. Listen, I can't help here but think about in the Bible, there are something called imprecatory psalms. There's psalms like Psalm 5 and Psalm 6 where the psalmist is praying, but he's praying for the downfall of the enemies of God's people. He's praying for judgment, praying for God in his righteousness to send down fury. I think those psalms are appropriate here. Pornhub and companies like it are awful. They're corrupt, they're evil, and they destroy our country and our children. And they know it, which is why when we tell our kids, you can't go on there, they just leave the state altogether. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but it is righteous to pray for companies like this to go bankrupt, for the people who run them to be charged with crimes, because they are an evil scourge on our society. Listen, I'm glad Florida is passing laws to childproof the internet. I wish they didn't have to do that because parents were vigilant and aggressive with what what their kids are doing online. But even more than that, I want to go a step further than that and say, I am now committing myself to praying that companies like this are shut down forever. To echo the psalmist, how long, God, will you let this go on? Judge them and come in your fury. Let's pray for a world in 10 years where companies like Pornhub are distant memories. Hey, thanks so much for watching this episode of Wake Up, Look Up. While you're here, take a minute to like and subscribe. It really helps us get the word out. Don't hesitate to leave a review wherever you might find this podcast on an audio level and help spread the word. And hey, while you're here, check out all the other content we have at Christ Community Chapel on YouTube. Some of those videos are popping up on the screen now. Click on one.